Hello? Christy Tudor?
I'm here.
Okay. Just checking the sound. Okay, Elisa, I see you now.
Hey, I tried the same number or the same link again and it worked. Thank goodness.
Okay, good. I was just sending you an email. Okay, let me share my screen with you so we can get started. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
ETS, okay. It's 6 o'clock, so this Zoom is gonna kick us off in about 30, 40 minutes. So we'll go ahead and get started, and as others come in, they can participate, and we'll do what we can to catch them up. As we get started, just want to remind you to read your assignment guidelines, please. I didn't do a lot of, I checked your first assignments and I didn't take off for some things, but I will the next time. Just want to remind you to read your assignments and follow those guidelines. Okay, let's talk about PPAT. First of all, do you have any questions about anything? Bear with me, we're having some difficulties with this, with Moodle. So if some dates are not right, if you shoot me an email, say, oh, the dates need to be changed or whatever, I will try to check those myself tonight and tomorrow. So I'll hope I can get those corrected for you if there are any out there that shouldn't be. Okay, My purpose today is to go through the PPAT Task 1, and we may have to meet next week as well, depending on how far we get. If you noticed on your Moodle shell, I did assign a date for PPAT task. It should be about 4 weeks out, so those dates should be there for you. So in order to get to the PPAT website for Praxis, you will go to www.ets.org, and this is where you see the active screen, and then you will highlight Praxis, and you can go immediately to PPAT assessment. Once you get there, it will say PPAT assessment again. And if you scroll down, you'll see PPAT assessment from ETS. How does it work? What does it measure? You have task 1, knowledge of students and the learning environment, which of course is a task that you are required to do in 487. Task 2 is assessment and data collection to measure and inform student learning. This is you evaluating and assessing your student. Task 3 is designing instruction for student learning. It's what you're teaching the student. And task 4 is implementing and analyzing instruction to promote student learning. Task 4 is very simply you analyzing the lesson that you taught, and you allow that lesson that you taught and what you learned to guide your teaching or provide you with next steps. This task 4 also comes with a video. So just wanted to share that with you so you have an overview of what PPAT looks like. So let's go back up then for the purpose of being here this afternoon. How does it work? When you see how does it work, you will click on building and submitting tasks. And then you will see it says building and submitting tasks for PPAT assessment, the dates and the deadlines, which are not important to you. Only the students who are student teaching, those dates are important to them. Your dates are on Moodle. So here we have the task requirements. But also want you to see that there's a library of examples, and we may use that today. It talks about the written commentary. You might want to look at that as you write your commentary for task 1. So let's go back to review task 1. And we have, of course, you have the in-task Model Core teaching standards. Please look at those at your leisure. There's a candidate educator and educator handbook. You can look at that if you so desire. But our purpose here today is to look at task 1, knowledge of students and the learning environment. I'm not going to read all of this to you, because I think what's important is that we try to go through the requirements. So let's look at task 1. Okay, let me see if I can move this over. I don't know why I'm not doing a full screen. Let me see what's going on with this. Let me shut it down. I've got some other things open. Okay, let me try this again. So it's going to be in PDF. I don't know what's going on with this screen. I'm trying to pull it. Okay, maybe we can see enough of it. I don't. Okay. Can y'all see that screen? Can y'all see?
No, it didn't change.
Nope.
Okay. I don't know why. Okay, well, let's look at task 1. Task 1, of course, is knowledge of students in the learning environment. We know that, okay? So let me see if I can get this to, and it talks about the standards and the indicators. Okay, For this task, you must submit the following evidences. A written commentary of a maximum of 21,000 characters, approximately 7 pages typed, that responds to all parts of the guiding prompts, references your artifacts to support your written evidence, and describes, analyzes, and reflects on the evidence. Okay? I don't know what's going on with some of the folks. They're not in. Please click to start your meeting. I can't do that. Let me see if I can answer them. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. Okay, they're going to have to miss because I need to go on. Okay, so there are 4 different types of artifacts, and artifacts are the things that you have to upload. You have to do a contextual factors chart. We talked about that, I think, the first time we met. You have to do an instructional and support resources chart, a student interest survey, and a communication letter. And how to submit your evidence. It says upload your artifacts into your library of artifacts. You don't have to worry about that because you don't have to submit to ETS. Oh, Lord. Okay. So, how to compose your written commentary. The task has 2 steps. Step 1 is the knowledge of students, and step 2 is the resources and procedures. And it asks you to just read the task before responding to the prompts. Okay, step 1, knowledge of students. We're going to talk about the community, the district, the school, contextual factors, all those things that influence your teaching. It says the activity, completing the contextual factors chart. So now let me see if I can pull that up for you. Contextual factors chart. Let me go into the words. Let me find it. Okay. So do you see the chart?
Yeah.
Okay. This is your contextual factors chart. Directions are pretty simple. It's designed to help you to understand the factors that affect teaching and learning in your school. So what you have are the factors, general context for your student, the community, you have the district, you have the school, you have the classroom demographics, and you have knowledge of students in terms of the whole class and individual students. So what you have to do is read what's indicated, which describes each one of those factors. You have community, you have the district, you have the school, you have the classroom demographics and knowledge. Now, the general contextual factors are as follows. They want you to indicate the student's grade and developmental levels right here, the age range of the students, the content area being taught, and any other factors that you feel are pertinent to understanding your class assignment. Then the community. Is your area urban, suburban, rural? What's the socioeconomic status of the students who live in your community? What does the census data indicate as it relates to that community? Then when you go to the district, you want to talk about what's the enrollment, the percent of students who receive free and reduced lunches, what's the graduation rate, what are the ethnicities, and what percent of the students in the system have IEPs. You can get all of this information from your central office. Okay, and then of course it comes back, it relates to the school, if you can answer that, those pieces of information as it relates to the factors. And then of course your classroom demographics and knowledge of students. Are there any language needs? I don't know what to say. Let's see, Katie. Elisa, what did you do to get on? I guess she's gone. Anyway, so
Me?
you have, yes. What
Did you say Alyssa?
Yeah.
I
I have
went back to an email that you had said you had given the login information, and I just called a phone number.
Okay. I don't know what's happening with that. Okay, so that's the contextual factors chart. Are there any questions regarding that chart?
I have a question.
Yes.
If we're not student teaching, are we making up this information? Do we have to go to the actual school?
I prefer you go to the actual school. If you're not student teaching, you need to locate a school, maybe somewhere that's close by you, and just talk with the principal first. And he more than likely can assign somebody to help you get the information. You would probably need a classroom.
I'm sorry, a class what?
Classroom. You would probably need to be assigned to a classroom in order to get the information, because as you, well, you might not. Maybe if you can just choose, okay, we have the community, we have the district, you have the school, and then it does say classroom demographics. So you will have to have a classroom.
I have a question.
Yes.
I work in NC Pre-K. Can I use that classroom, or it has to be a public school system?
No, ma'am. You can use NC Pre-K. That'll work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can I use the school that my kids attend?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, so let's look at the guiding prompts. Let me see if I can share that screen. We're going back and forth. You see the screen that says step 1, knowledge of students?
Yes.
Okay.
I have another question.
Yes.
If you do an NC Pre-K room, then when you go to look up the responses to the teaching conditions with the graphs and everything, that doesn't include NC Pre-K, does it?
I'm lost because I don't understand. Now I can't move this back. But anyway, let me see if I can share this other screen with you. Oh, today is not the day. What is going on? Okay, let me see if I can share that screen with you. Okay. You're going to need to be able, do you see, let me see, the PPAT contextual factors chart, right? NC Pre-K. Okay, what does the community look like? Is this the question? Is this the question?
No, we had to do I thought a reflection paper on, what was it, the teacher survey for teaching conditions in schools and compare it to,
where's that assignment?
maybe I'm confusing my classes.
Okay. It's easy to do.
It's been a long day. I'll get back to you.
No, don't worry about it. I understand. Well, let me see if I can find. Okay, so.
Sorry, yeah, that's a different class. Never mind.
Not a problem. Not a problem. I understand. I have no problems with it. Okay. All right. All right. Classroom demographics and knowledge of students. All right. Now listen. 111, community district school contextual factors that influence instruction. Identify your chosen community factor. Based on your chosen community factor, identify and describe one possible instructional strategy. Okay, go back and look. You remember you had community, district, and school, right? So the community factor is something within that community that you want to discuss. That's what you're going to talk about. So based on that community factor, identify and describe one possible instructional strategy. Let's just say that this community is low socioeconomic, so I've selected that factor, and the students do not have access to the internet. Okay, so maybe that's the factor that I want to deal with. And then it says identify and describe one possible instructional strategy. So what kind of instructional teaching strategy would be good for students who live in a low socioeconomic area? Maybe we could say group activities, cooperative learning. Let's just say that. If that's the activity that you are going to, instructional strategies that you're going to use, then fine. And just also, whenever you use that, tell me why. Why is cooperative group activities good for students? Does it give them a chance to interact with each other, also help to build character and help them to learn how to get along with others? In low socioeconomic areas, sometimes kids need that, or students need that. Then once you decide that we're going to do cooperative learning, activity, then it wants you to instructional strategies or your instructional strategies of cooperative learning. So now the learning activity. So what do you want to do? What are you going to do when you put the students in the group? What kind of activity are you going to design so that they can learn? And it would depend on what you're teaching at that time. Okay? So from the contextual factors chart, choose one factor that you believe will have the most impact on student learning. I'm sorry. I'm about like the student who got the classes mixed up. Identify and describe the one possible instructional strategy and the learning activity that you could use in your classroom to further student learning. And tell us why you want to use that. And of course, explain how the identified strategy and activity connect to the factor. So you want to talk about what kind of activity could you do with students that would be cooperative learning? Nobody has an idea?
For small group?
Small group, cooperative learning. Mm-hmm. Let's just say if you were teaching, just for example, you were teaching about nouns maybe. Everybody would have a sheet and everybody had an opportunity to circle to identify all the nouns. And then they could exchange papers and check each other's work. It's just whatever it is that you decide to do if you elect to use cooperative learning. But if it were me and I elected socioeconomic status, what I would do, I would just Google effective strategies to be used in the classroom for low socioeconomic students or whatever, because that will help you. Then you select the district factor. You do the very same thing. You identify and describe one possible instructional strategy. Write down this. The instructional strategy is what the teacher does in the classroom to teach. That's the instructional strategy, okay? And then, of course, the learning activity is what the students will do in order to learn whatever objective has been set for that lesson. Any questions? So you'll select a community factor, you'll select a district factor, and then you will select a school factor and do the same thing each time for that. Questions? An instructional strategy and a learning activity. And give a rationale for why you elect to do that. Now, 112, the demographics and knowledge of students. Identify the chosen demographic factor based on your classroom demographics factor. Identify and describe one possible, here again, an instructional strategy and one learning activity. And this is with the classroom, okay? And then it goes on to say in your chosen knowledge of the student factors, based on your chosen knowledge of student factor, knowledge of students, identify and describe an instructional strategy, learning activity, provide a rationale. There are 3 things that you have to do. Question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
everything that we are filling out about the school, the district, and all these students, is this making the assumption that we will be with these? I'm sorry, there's a lot of background noise. It's not from me.
Okay.
Is this PPAT assuming that we're going to be with that same group of students throughout our internship?
You're not interning right now, are you?
Correct.
Okay, so this is just for 487. But now when you intern and you have to do PPAT, you're in that same classroom. You're in the same classroom, and you don't have, when you do PPAT, you do not have to use the same group of students. Say, for example, though, you are high school and you have 3 blocks of students. You may want to do 1 block for task 1, 1 block for task 2, 1 block for task 3. However, if you do that, you're always going to have to rewrite your commentary as it relates to your students' demographics. So that's up to you. If it were me, I'd be smart. I'd stick with the same class. Class or period 1 is the class I was going to stick with. That's the one that I would use.
So we have the option to choose where we intern? That's, I guess, my question.
Listen.
How do we know for sure that we're going to be with these same students? That's what I'm asking.
Listen. Your concern right now is is getting task 1 for 487. Student teaching comes later. That's a whole nother ball game. I don't want you to get conflicted. I don't want you to get confused with the 2. This is not student teaching. You just need to do task 1 for that. Student teaching, you will be assigned. Once you tell me where you want to go, I will make contact with that school system. Now, where they put you, I can't tell you where they're going to put you because I can't make that decision. It is made by the school system. So let's deal with 487 and not 493 and 499 at this point. Okay. Now, who had that question? Who was that?
Alyssa.
Alyssa. Okay. If you have questions about student teaching, Alyssa, stop by and see me. Come by and make an appointment, and I'll be more than happy to sit down and discuss those with you. It's kind of difficult, and I say that because we have embedded the task in different subject areas, but you are required in 499 to complete the entire assessment. But we're trying to get you there by doing the small steps. Okay. Text box 121, resources and procedures, available resources to enhance student learning. Completing the instructional and support resources chart. Complete the instructional and support resources chart by identifying available resources within your teaching context that can support your instruction. Then respond to the guiding prompts below. Select 2 resources from the completed chart and describe how you would use each in your classroom to support student learning. B, select a particular characteristic that you listed on the knowledge of students in the contextual factors chart. I wish I could show you both of those. And describe how a resource different from the 2 listed in guiding prompt A could enhance student learning. So they're just asking you to list another one. That's all that they want you to do. So we have the instructional support and resources chart, and then you have the contextual factors chart. So let me see if I can pull that other chart up for you. I don't know what in the world's going on today. Okay, now here's your contextual factors chart. There are two different charts now. This is the contextual factors chart. This chart is designed to help you understand the many factors that affect teaching and learning. Such factors include the community, classroom procedures, student demographic, and graphics, and the physical environment in which teaching takes place. Okay, so you have the general context of your students and the subcategories listed below they want you to address. The community, the district, the school. So these are the contextual, we got 10 minutes, contextual factors chart. So you have two charts, okay? And it looks like sometimes this information may be the same. So because we're nowhere near being finished, when this meeting ends in 10 minutes, log off and log back on. I will stay with you for a few more minutes. Okay? Questions? I think the best thing is to just take your time and kind of read through the information. Okay. Complete an instructional and support resources chart. Communicating with students and families, and administering and analyzing a student interest inventory. The last two things that we have to do. Analyzing and administering a student interest inventory. It said create or choose a student interest inventory appropriate to your classroom assignment. Administer the inventory to your whole class or gather information relevant to your students' interests and learning preferences, and then respond to the guiding prompts below. You may select an interest inventory. If you do not know what an interest inventory is, I admonish you to Google it so that you can get an idea. You do not have to make up your own. You can if you so desire, but you can find one as it relates to a student interest. You may use that one. And it says, based on the completion of information from the whole class inventory, analyze one example of how this information would influence an instructional decision you would make in your classroom. Let's just say we talked about the preferences that students love to learn. Let's just say that you had auditory, visual, and kinesthetic, and the majority of 70% of the students came back that they were visual learners. What you would do in that class is the majority of your lessons would have some visual strategies to use, because 70% of those students are visual learners. However, I like to share with you that approximately 70% of all students in the class are either auditory, visual, or kinesthetic. So, but for the purpose of this prompt, we thought that maybe they were all visual. So that's what you would do. That's how that would work based on the inventory. And it says, using one student's completed inventory, using Ruby's, look at what Ruby said, analyze how you would use one item from the inventory to promote the student's engagement and learning. Well, you know that I like visuals. So every lesson that you would have something visual in that lesson for me so that I would stay engaged with your instruction. That's what that is. And you have to upload your interest inventory. Questions?
No.
Okay. All right, communicating with students and families. Based on the demographics of your classroom and your knowledge of the families and community, construct a communication method that introduces you to your students and their families. The method of communication could be, but is not limited to, the use of websites, email, a school function, activity, or a letter. I'm just asking for a letter, people. After creating the communication, respond to the guiding prompts. Describe one example of how your introductory communication addresses the demographic differences in the classroom. We know that we have a variety of students in the classroom, and we can't say Christmas, but I'm going to use it. You might celebrate Hanukkah. We talk about Christmas. We have bulletin boards in the room, which will address the different types of holidays, if you so call them that, for the students in the room, okay? And describe your introductory communication. Describe how your introductory communication fosters interaction among you, your students, and their families. You may want to have a little cook-off. You might want to have a supper where everybody from different ethnic groups will bring in their foods or share the kinds of foods that they cook. So that's all that is. That's what that is, and that's very simple and very easy to do. But it has to be described in your letter. You might say at Christmas we will do this, and then in the spring we will have a dinner, a cook-off, sharing the dishes that we make. And if you do something like that, of course, every family would eat their own food. Any questions? You need to find a classroom. It's a lot. Take your time, read through it. You've got some time. You think we need to meet next week, we can do that. But you do have to have an interest inventory. You do have to have a letter. They need to be uploaded. You do have to upload your instructional support charts and your contextual factors charts. Those have to be completed. And you do need to have a school.
Is it okay that I use my own classroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any questions? Who is SETON? You're not on my list. So apparently you're using something else.
No, I'm here. That's me, Seaton.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Any questions? Any questions? Do y'all need to meet
No,
next
ma'am.
week?
I don't think it could hurt.
Anybody else? Okay, we can have a question answer session then. Classes are shut down from Wednesday through Friday because of the storm. We'll see what happens.
That includes online classes?
It just said classes. Well, you know what? If the storm comes, I would chime into my online class, wait to hear what a professor has to say. But if the storm comes and we don't have electricity, then you know what that does. So just check with your professor online and see what's happening. If you have assignments that are due, you need to work on them. If you have electricity, work on them. That would be my advice. So we'll plan to have a question and answer session next week. And I will share this with you. If something happens and we can't log on, I will send you the information for a conference call. Now, a lot of people say the conference calls might not work, but if you have a question, we can very easily answer the question. So if we can't get Zoom, we'll conference call, and I'll send that information to you. Okay? So I'll send an email for the conference call, and we'll use the same link. Questions, comments, concerns?
No, ma'am.
All righty.
No, ma'am.
All right. Melissa, if you have questions about student teaching, please set up an appointment and stop by the office. I'll be more than happy to help you.
I'll send you an email.
Okay, thank you. All right, everybody. Take care. Be safe.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.